Welcome guys, I am Vikram Kakar, a student of ACAST Cloud Online. Today we will understand Azure Application Gateway and then we will see how to configure it in Azure. So Application Gateway is basically a web traffic load balancer which helps you to manage the incoming traffic to your web applications. Application gateways are used extensively in Azure because they offer several features. Some of them are auto scaling. So you can scale out or scale in based on the increase or decrease in your traffic load. So the number of servers can be increased or decreased according to the traffic load. So that is the auto scaling. It also offers URL based routing and multiple site hosting. So in URL based routing, the traffic is routed based on the URL of the incoming request. If the URL requests a link to videos, the request can be routed to the video server pool. If the URL requests link to images, for example, the request can be routed to the image server pools or to the email server pools and so on and on. It also offers a feature of multiple site hosting. So within the same, so you can configure the application gateway to include multiple web applications. Say, for example, the requests coming, all the incoming requests for Contoso.com application can be routed to certain servers meant for Contoso.com. The incoming requests for Wipro.com, for example, can be routed to all the servers meant for Wipro.com and so on. So all the requests for these multiple applications will be accepted by a single application gateway, which has a front-end IP, public IP. It offers a feature of sizing. So the application gateway can be configured for auto scaling or for single size deployments. It can also include an optional component, which is the web application firewall. The firewall basically protects your web application from any potential threats or attacks. Now let's have a look at how the application gateway works at a very basic level. So the request comes from the browser to the application gateway, which has a front end and public facing IP. The request is accepted by the listener based on a specific combination of rules which you would have set up, which could be the protocol, port number, host name, IP address, and so on. So the listener basically accepts the incoming requests and then routes them based on certain rules which you have specified. The request is then routed to the appropriate pool of servers based on the features which we have just discussed. It could be URL based or multiple site hosting and so on and on. So this is the application gateway functioning at a very basic level. Now let's have a look at how to configure the application gateway in Azure. So I've configured a resource group and a virtual network in Azure. I've set up two subnets within the VNet. One is just a standard subnet which you can give it any name, and the second subnet has to be called application gateway subnet. This name is mandatory for the application gateway to be associated to it. Now we will create the virtual machines, the servers basically. I'll create two virtual machines. One I'll call it video, for example, and the other I'll call it images, and both will be a part of the general subnet, not the application gateway subnet. So most of the specifications for the VM are standard. You put your resource group, you give it a name, you give it a specific name. So I'm giving it a name, videos. You select your image and the login name and the inbound ports. I've selected HTTP and the RDP. We then go on to the networking page and we make sure that it uses the standard subnet. And then I will click create. So while this VM is being deployed, I'll open another Azure portal and create another VM by the name of images. Again, most of the specifications are standard, except that I'll give it a name of images. I'll select the image, I'll give it a username. I'll select the RDP and HTTP inbound port, and I'll go to the networking page. And again, I'll make sure that I select the standard subnet, and I'll go and create. So the first VM has been deployed. We will now log into this VM using the RDP port. We will now configure the IIS server, the web server, in both the VMs. I'll turn the security configuration off. We will now configure the web server. While this is being installed, I will go to the second VM, which has now been deployed, and I will remotely log in. I'll configure the IIS server, the web server, in this VM. The web server has been installed in the first VM. We will go to the C drive. We'll go inside the inet pub folder, within that the www root folder, and we'll create a new folder. I'll call this folder videos. I'll enter the folder and I'll create a notepad file, and I'll put some text, HTML text into it, and I'll save this as index.html all file. I'll save it. I've saved this in the video folder. I'll go to the internet and type the IP address of this VM /video/ and we can see the message which we have put. So the configuration has been successful so far. We'll go to the second VM. The IIS server has been installed. We'll follow the same procedure here. We'll go to the C drive. We'll create a folder called image. Within the folder, we'll create a notepad file. We'll enter this file and again insert some HTML text. I'll save this as index.html under the all files type. I've saved this under the image folder. I'll go to the internet, type the IP address /image/ and we can see the message displayed. Now that we have configured the servers, we will go to Azure and configure the application gateway. You can go to the search bar and type application gateway, and I'll click create. I'll select the resource group. I'll give it a name. I'll select the same region as the resource group. I'll select the tier as standard. I'll keep the instance count to 1. The SK size will be medium. The HTTP2 will be disabled. I'll select the virtual VNet which I have created, and within that the application gateway subnet. This name is mandatory. Now we'll go to the front end. So we want to have a public IP. So I'll add create new. I'll just call it application gateway IP and click OK. Now we create the backend pool. So here we will add the two VMs, the servers which we have created. I'll call it. So it asks add backend pool without target. So we have a target. So I'll select no. I'll select virtual machine and the videos VM, and again the virtual machine and the images VM. I'll click add. We go next to the configuration. We've added two VMs and the two servers to the backend pool. Now we will add the routing rule. First, we add rules for the listener. We will call it rule 1. The listener name, I'll call it listener 1. IP will be public IP. The listener type is basic, and for the error page, I'll put no. We do not want any error message for the time being. I'll then go to the backend targets page. So the target type, we do have a backend pool, which is this PE1. We'll create HTTP setting. I'll call it HTTP 11. I'll keep these two disabled. The request timeout second will be 2. Will be 20. And I'll click add. Now we will add the multiple targets to create a path. Here I'll put the path to the web page which I have configured in the servers. So the first one was video target name. I'll put it target1, and we will just confirm. I'll click add. I'll add another path, which will be for the image. I'll call it target2. The HTTP setting which I have already created, and the backend pool. And I'll click add. And I'll click add. I'm not adding any tags, and I will review and create. And I've clicked create. The application gateway can take quite some time, sometimes even about 15 to 20 or so, even more minutes to configure. The application gateway has now been deployed. So the application gateway does take time to configure, but as I mentioned, it's a useful tool. If you want, you can copy the public IP of the application gateway if you want, and just confirm. You can open an in-private window. For example, you can type, you can put in the public IP address /image/index.html, and it returns this web page which we configured. So today we have understood some basics about the application gateway, and we have also seen how to configure it in Azure. So hope today's video is useful for you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.